But what I want to do here is just sort of try this one using the tripod. So that's basically about the minimum height of the tripod if you have the legs slightly deployed. So obviously the phone doesn't tilt over. I think if the more you deploy the legs, yeah, the higher it goes. So yeah, because although the legs are going like that, the pole that's in between the legs goes up. So I am just going to set this up as I normally would with the live chat and all that on the screen, so I can actually do everything a bit more efficiently. It's just that I can't use my mouse very much here because I've got this on my mouse mat, so it's quite hard to right. And then I'll do a white screen. So pure white screen. There we go. And then I will do pop-out chat just in case, because sometimes the chat breaks on the phone screen, even though it still works on the one there. Right, cool. So I'm going to now set that so the chat window is as close as possible to the phone where I've got that. And again, I don't know if I can actually rotate this bit. All right, Rich, because I can obviously rotate the again, that's going to put the legs down a bit more like that. So I know I can I don't think this bit rotates. I think, yeah, you have to, unfortunately, with this, have it going the wrong way now. No, I want to go that way. Yeah, so I'm going to have the tripod in or about this position, which is absolutely fine. It's just a case of, I'll make sure my flag's in the background. There we go. So, yeah, like I said, so I'm just trying this one with the tripod for the camera. And like I said, I'll try and get the chat window so on the screen it's as close to where my phone is as possible. So I kind of look like I'm looking at both if I'm reading out messages. Right, and I'll also put Do Not Disturb on before I forget on my phone, because otherwise sometimes it's really annoying. You're doing a stream and then you get a bloody notification come up. You know, that keeps blocking what you're looking at. Oh, so Welsh and like the Scottish one and all that. So like the St Andrew's flag, the Welsh dragon, and all those. All right, Stalker with an oil lantern. So yeah, the Union Jack. So Union Jacks work, but all the others don't. But does the Georgian flag still works? Doesn't it? I don't know which emoji thing you get up to do all those. Like I said, I can't really easily add emotes. Can you search emotes? I want search flag. I could do a trans flag. It lets me do that, and an LGBTQ flag on that lot, but it doesn't have at least in the YouTube one. So it's just, that's interesting, isn't it? But yeah, so like I said, I did a video on that earlier, so yeah, so I don't know, it's passport control technically, but yeah, you can have a little policeman. I was me checking your thinking. But yeah, all of the flags come up like that, don't they? When you try and do it via the black flag, black_flag, rainbow flag, and transgender flag, as said, and pirate flag are the only ones allowed. And crossed flags, but they're crossed Japanese flags for some reason. You look, it's the Japanese flag. I don't know that. Oh, you can have a checkered racing flag. That flag's allowed. Stalker with an oil lantern did a load of flags. They've shown up for me, but like I said, I don't know why. Because when people do the other flags in the stream, a lot of other people say they can't see certain flags. But as the host, everything isn't blocked, right, Byron? So yeah, I can see the Georgian flag, the St Andrew's Scottish flag. Is it St David, the Welsh flag? I don't actually know. Daffyd, it's a Daffyd flag. Union flag, Union Jack, flag of St George, R1, and then US Stars and Stripes. So so actually give, if you click on the thing, I was just kind of wondering if it would actually give you a breakdown of what the design a large. It's just called the Red Dragon. Okay, so it's got nothing to do with Saint David or anything. And in Welsh that's Wadri Guk or something like that. I have to pronounce it like that because it's Welsh. Anyway, what was I going to look at? I was just going to Google this. English flag censored on YouTube. Also, yeah, somebody says also they are censoring country flags. Whether the UK flag are used, say the Union Jack, England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland flags are used. It will show others there a black flag, and whenever I comment something an hour later, I will check using private browsing, and what do you know, my comment is not there. At this point, I don't bother commenting anymore. No point engaging with the video creator or the video community when YouTube arbitrarily decides what to censor in fear of it will offend others. Oh, I wonder. Red Dragon, yeah. Witness the Red Dragon. Do you see Mrs. Jacobi after her transformation? Do you see? But yeah, I wonder if all of this was to do with, like, after October the 7th, if it was to do with Palestinian flags being spammed, and then they just banned loads and loads of flags from YouTube, maybe. So maybe that is actually separate from what's going on in the UK. All right, Rem. Yeah, thank you. My flag is a bit creased in the background there, as you can see. It's not up on a proper thing, but put it round myself, why not? But then I can't use my arms if I do that. But yes. Just happily put this up here for a bit, so it offends somebody in government. So yeah. Still, again, the problem is about standing up and going all the way back. It's quite hard to get the flag to just stay up on its own. And I want it to be, like I said, visible in the background. But yeah, that's the only problem though. I could just put it this way up because it's pretty much the same flag either way up. And make it so cross on there is hopefully visible there behind me. Yeah, that I mean that will also work, but I can see both the Palestine and Israeli flag there, Stalker, but again, for some reason it seems me as a video host works. But yeah, so like we're saying, so yeah, the reason people are doing that a lot with the flag now is because of how much our own government and all the sort of you know, what you call them, shit libs have said, you know, oh, you need to be ashamed of your flag, and it's had the sound effect now where everyone wants to stick the flag everywhere. You know, there's a lamppost without a flag on it. Stick up a flag. So, yeah. I will see, though, again, like I said, the only problem with using this stand for my... probably move it a bit further that way if I can keep stuff in frame. All right, yeah, I'll just do that. It's because I was just saying I just want a bit of room to move my mouse, because the problem is otherwise the mouse, the tripod is in the way of the mouse. But yeah, I want to have a look and see what other stupid things are in the news today, so we can have a bit of rage bait. The standard thing that happens in the US a lot has happened in another school in America. Jack Straw, who is a Labour MP, I think quite a senior one, has said Starmer should back away from ECHR. So even some of the Labour people now are realising that we need to be away from this fucking ECHR nonsense. Hello, all right, that's interesting, Rem. So yeah, talking about in Italy, well, like I said, the flag isn't officially banned, is it? But it's the sort of thing that when England's playing the football, they're happy for it to be there, and then as soon as there's not anything like the football or the rugby on, the politicians and all those sort of people absolutely hate this flag because it's apparently like a racial like supremacy, you know, we're like the KKK or something for having that flag over here, even though it's our country's fucking flag. So, and again, it would be very different if I went into somebody else's country and shoved that flag somewhere, but I'm not doing that, and that's the thing. And it's other people bring their flags over here all the time, and we're told, isn't that great? But then why is it that when we put up our own flag, it's suddenly a problem? It does just, you just have to question it, don't you? But yeah, Rich, yeah, you must be really happy at the moment, haven't you, if you bought loads of... You're probably one of those people that you bought a load of flags when football was on and then thought, oh, shit, I've got a load left in a warehouse I didn't sell. And then, yeah, you're over the moon now that your massive backstock of the England flags is selling well. I did see that, Kevin, yeah. Yeah, if you got illegal immigrants and put Union Jacks on them or St. George's flag, would they actually then be deported? But yeah, like I said, the only thing I'd say with people is obviously don't do vandalism, obviously, because I have to tell people to do stuff that's completely legal when I'm doing videos. Don't do any vandalism like you see some people doing, where they go up to random people's houses if they're like white painted and putting a red cross in the middle of it so it looks like a giant St. George's flag. If it's your own house, obviously feel free. But obviously putting up flags on lampposts or whatever isn't hurting anybody, is it? The police kicked your door in and took your BB guns. On what grounds did they have to do that? Like I said, luckily I've only had like 1 or 2 police visits, and they were all for stuff that, you know, was completely in the end not a problem. But I do know people that have had issues with like stuff in there, you know, where they've been searched and raided and all that. And often, you know, nothing's ever come of it, but it's been a waste of everybody's time and stress because of but that is a point. Speaking of why would you make a cake like that? But what was I going to say? The Free Speech Union. I might look at paying for a membership of that, because I do know then, at least if you're a member of the Free Speech Union, you get legal protection, don't you? That essentially, like, if you're a member of the Free Speech Union, they will pay for a lawyer for you or whatever, or legal advice. If you know, you get in some bollocks with the you know, things like that. But speaking of those sort of cakes, wasn't there one where they were on about like the police were all about like some horrible neo-Nazi kind of person, and they had fucking little swastika biscuits. Thing is, crossbows are completely UK legal, so they can't take them. That's the thing. They can take them temporarily and then have to return them. What was my favourite T-sheet? All right, Rajiv as well, if I didn't just say that. Favourite TV show as a kid? Oh, I'm going to have to think now. Probably Thunderbirds or Captain Scarlet. And I've got all those on Blu-ray. Yeah, ask your random question about an FM12 and maybe I'll know the answer, Uncle Sam. But yeah, that's... No, didn't see Sharp as a kid. Seen Sharp as an adult. That isn't exactly the thing they put on kids' TV, like programming hours for kids, Sharp. I'm saying that Sharp was made in the 90s, and I grew up in the 90s. So, Scrap Heat Challenge, I haven't seen that in yonks. I think they used to put on Dave or one of the channels like that, didn't they? What's an RSS MP mask? But GP5s aren't rare if you're on about getting one in black. Robot Wars is great. But yeah, what was I going to say anyway regarding Knight Rider? Although every time somebody says about Knight Rider and I do that, I always think of the Frankie Boyle sketch about You know, where it's like the smack addict driving the car around. You know, where he keeps shooting up and he's like, speed boost, kit. It's like that enemy agent's disguising herself as a pregnant woman, Michael. Send the message, one in each tit. And he's just silencing his gun. So that's 2004 mask, has 2 ports, but the plug is either really jammed or it simply doesn't come out. It's possible. It depends what variant it is. So I guess on the side that you're not using the filter on, does it have like a cross section on it where you can grip onto it, or does it just simply look like a kind of one of the S10 sort of standard FM12 things? Because if it's one of those types, it doesn't come out. The only ones that unscrew are the ones that have the obvious sort of like unscrewable kind of holding onto point, like the blanking plug sort of look to it. Because most of the FM12s and that don't have exchangeable sides. You know, they're like factory built and sealed to work one way or the other. There are dual filter ones, but they have the specialist, you know, they just have a blanking plug on. It's an SHMP mask industrial. Let me look up what that is. Apparently, yeah, that just means it could be an industrial issued one, but again, they could still have the civil defense ones, I think, in black. I think a lot of the time the Soviets did seem to do a thing where most of their own domestic military and civil defense stuff was white, wasn't it? Or like the grey-white coloured rubber. And I think, yeah, the black ones did tend to be either the export models or used for other things. So I don't think that was ever 100% of the case. Yeah, no one gets in, no one gets out. Yeah. Yeah. People were on about John Carpenter earlier, I think, because they were on about They Live. But yeah, I like John Carpenter films. Warhammer, funny you mentioning Warhammer, because I've been playing the Dawn of War remaster quite a lot recently. But what was I going to say? Yeah, Dawn of War Definitive Edition. Yeah, I've got Lost Themes. I've got the physical CD of Lost Themes 1, Rajiv. Not Lost Themes 2, but I've got Lost Themes 1 on CD. So it's right at the back end of the Soviet Union electronic guy then. Yeah, Chris, that's a bit weird. It just must be that there aren't many companies that sell them domestically or whatever, or stores that sell them. Because like I said, MSA and a few of the US companies actually make them. It's just kind of weird if some of the models, I guess, aren't really stocked by US suppliers or whatever. Isn't Trench Crusade kind of... Right, because I saw a thing where somebody was ranting about Trench Crusade the other day. But isn't it just kind of like another tabletop kind of grimdark thing, but rather than being like Warhammer 40k, it's kind of like an alternative World War I-y sort of thing? Yeah, I haven't actually seen Starman. I haven't seen Starman, and I haven't seen the Invisible Man one either, Rajiv, he did. But I've seen pretty much nearly everything else that's in... I've got a book of all of John Carpenter's films and like TV works. I haven't seen the Elvis film either, where Kurt Russell plays Elvis. He did. So there's at least 3 John Carpenter things I haven't seen, but I have seen nearly all of his things. I've even seen, because it was quite hard to find, yeah, Assault on Precinct 13, but yes. What was it called? Someone's Watching Me? Something like that, because there's like a Carpenter made for... TV film he did in like the 70s or the 80s that's quite good. Yeah, John just seems like a decent person, because I think he wasn't he one of those people that said he just doesn't want the hassle of like making films now. He just wants to smoke weed and play video games or something. So he does. Carpenter does sound like one of those, like decent people. And I don't think he's ever been accused of any noncery around Hollywood like a lot of people. So I think he's probably just one of those straight up sort of people. You get what you expect from him. All right, see you, Uncle Sam. But yeah, so there's that one. It's called something like Someone's Watching Me or something like that, and that's about like it's a bit like a Rear Window kind of remake spin-off sort of thing, a bit like Hitchcock's Rear Window, where there's a woman in an apartment and she's getting stalked and she doesn't know who's doing it sort of thing. But it has got a couple of like the famous kind of Carpenter background actors he had in a lot of his early films. Where it was more like people he knew and worked with who'd like take up the like lesser roles in films. So it is one of those ones of like, oh, I recognize that guy from the other Carpenter films, just because, they were the ones that would just fill out a role if you didn't have a proper actor to play them sort of thing in that one. But yeah, and he also did a couple of like film segments, didn't he, for like kind of creep showy kind of things. Yeah, Prince of Darkness I genuinely find a bit creepy in some ways, especially with that like videotape looking dream bit they keep having in it. But yeah, Carpenter stuff's great. I didn't even mind Ghosts of Mars. Yeah, Ghosts of Mars I didn't think was awful. Like, where lots of people hated it. And wasn't his last film The Ward that had Amanda Turd in it? No, I'm not really into gardening. I've got the opposite of green fingers. Whenever I try and grow something, it grows all right. I can follow all the like gardening advice for it, and then it randomly wilts and dies. So some of my other family members are really into gardening. I'm one of those people that I'm like a curse to plants. It's like, I kind of have Agent Orange coming off of me or something. Because I can plant seeds, I can get them growing really well, and then they always die before they're ready to harvest. And similarly, if I buy a potted plant that's in good shape and it should be really simple to look after, sometimes it lasts a couple of weeks, sometimes it lasts like, 6 months or so. It seems to be doing fantastic, and then it will just suddenly die. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong with them, but I've kind of given up on a lot of plants because, like I said, Morgan, that sounds like something that I assume is not legal, so don't mention it. If it isn't something that isn't illegal, that yeah, but no, I did not ever start thinking a motorcycle gang. No, I don't know if you mean gang as in just like a group of people or an actual proper gang, but yes, considering I'm probably being watched by the government, it's probably not a good idea to I'm going to form a group. And like I keep saying with people, be very careful what you say and do. Like I said, as I was looking at the free speech union thing. Join the free speech union. How much does it cost? £60 a year. That's not too bad. Yeah, I might do that after this stream. So yeah, you can get an annual thing for the Free Speech Union for £60 a year. Because yeah, like I was saying, the Free Speech Union does seem like a thing of how this country's going that I might want to consider. Just because obviously it's Alien Earth. I swear I know what that is. Oh, then it's the TV series, isn't it? Of course I know what that is. Now, I was thinking of something really old then when you said Alien Earth. I was probably thinking of Battlefield Earth or something like that. I did see in that, though, Rajiv, that they've got a crappily made pulse rifle in one thing where it's a Styroorg with a bit of a body kit on it. I still probably enjoyed the series, don't get me wrong, but again, it's one of those things I'll probably wait for every episode to be out before I watch it. but yeah, I did like I said to you before, I didn't like any of the other like more modern Alien stuff. The game was all right. Alien Isolation, that was all right. Even if near the end of the game it gets really annoying because you have to just constantly keep throwing the alien every like couple of minutes. It loses all the scare factor. It's just kind of annoying gameplay. But yeah, I played Dead Space 1, never completed it. I enjoyed what I played of it, but I got to a bit where I was just really shit at like, that bit of the game. I just gave up on it, and this was years ago. And I haven't played any of the remakes or anything of it. But yeah, speaking of old games having remasters and remakes, so like I said, I really like the Stronghold Crusader Definitive Edition I was playing recently. Dawn of War's got its Definitive Edition out. And now Gears of War, I was playing a bit of it earlier because I really like Gears of War 1. There's a version called Gears of War Reloaded. And from what I understand, it's basically better than the previous version of Gears of War. I'll have to look up what that's called. It's on the Microsoft Store, but I do technically own it. But Gears of War, so it's like, at least they properly high-resed all the textures and everything in this one. The previous one was good if you just wanted to play it on PC, but it didn't have any of the things like multiplayer or co-op. But this one does have multiplayer and co-op. So it is basically like a proper, like retextured, higher-res version of Gears of War that you can actually play. Shinobi, that sounds familiar. Or, sorry, Shinoni? Right, I don't know sodium chloride. So which one's Shinoni? Shinoni. Oh, it is Shinobi. Yeah, did you mean Shinobi? Yeah, is that the ninja game? Yeah, I've played one of the really old ones of the Shinobi games. I can't remember which one. It was probably on PlayStation 1. Yeah, everything's good. I'm actually on the phone again with this one, just using a tripod, just because I wanted to see if YouTube would actually share it more if I did it vertically, and it does actually look like it did. Yeah, there's that. Where's my my UK Clown World, what's Kia done today? So there's that. I've got a little Art the Clown figurine, but that's actually too big, that little clown horn for him. Yeah. Fucking clowns, eh? Although again, I don't think this phone autofocuses without you tapping like a focus thing there. So it isn't really going to focus on anything that close. But yeah, this actually came in really handy because I was saying to other people that where I've got the Boya microphone obviously isn't being used on today's stream. And again, you can't actually see it there because of the angle not quite being right. That Boya microphone that you sent me. What I'm doing with that is when I put it on its current mount, it was really loose. I had that annoying thing where everything was technically the right spec to fit it, but it was just, kept flopping. And this, where it came with a bicycle mounting bracket, was the exact right size. So I put it with the bracket it was on, and now it actually grasps it firmly, and it doesn't keep, like, clonking down like that. Yeah, because, again, there's something very wrong with the Labour Party, isn't there, and Keir Starmer's government. Yeah, with the UK, yeah, you either have to laugh or cry or get some of the other channels I watch say you get it, like, have a fucking brain aneurysm from being so angry at what they're doing. So, yeah. Don't you mean Lidl? It doesn't have an E in Lidl. That's what Lidl is Lidl. Is Lidl the state of Lidl, the free state of Lidl, and then is there an Audi flag as well? The ANCAP thing where Lidl has overtaken certain provinces, but you're dyslexic, right? That's your excuse for putting an E in Lidl. It is a German word. There is no E in it. I know other German words have E in them, but still with Lidl. We do not put the E in the little comrade. But yeah, so yeah, what was I saying regarding that? Yeah, so yeah, with the UK stuff, you either start crying at how fucking despairingly bad this country is. My flag's not blacked out, no, because it's in the background. But yeah, so you either start crying over despair with how bad the country is, you laugh because it's a cosmic joke, yeah, or like you said, you end up having a fucking brain aneurysm from rage at what the government does. Yeah, it's probably hype just because they're doing the thing of, just looking for a bit of the market that has a space for them to go into. But again, Lidl and Aldi work really well over here because, they are genuinely often cheaper than the other supermarkets. So for people who don't have a lot of spare cash, you can get a lot more food for your money. And a lot of the time, it used to originally be that you were just buying, like, off-branded products, but nobody cares if you're getting the product. So let's have a look at some other rage-inducing news from the UK, because why not? The Epping Hotel faces the fresh legal battle because the government is using taxpayers' money to try and keep putting asylum seekers into that hotel. I know their argument is, well, if we didn't put them in the hotel, we'd have to put them into housing. Or you could deport them. You could do your fucking job and deport them and not let people break into the country illegally. But unfortunately, the government's attitude is, we won't stop them coming here or do anything to process them efficiently. Somebody said this earlier quite well. They're basically, the current narrative is, it's all your stupid gammon fault for trying to get these hotels closed down. That was the lesser of the options. You stupid racist. Look what you've done now. Yeah, I mean, the police have enough fucking jobs to do, Rajiv, and some of them they don't have time to. Again, and I feel bad for the genuine police officers that want to, no, Kevin, I don't. They're going to have to come and take it. But yeah, I feel bad for the actual cops that join the police wanting to do a good job, and then some superior officer is like, no, you're going after people for tweets, not actual shoplifters or burglars or whatever else. Well, were they furious because Aldi was good with pricing, and they're like, crikey, mate, they're selling stuff for cheap. We might have to drop our prices or lose some customers. That's outrageous, that is. Keir Starmer is, like I said, he's, in my opinion, because I'm going to have to keep saying it, in my opinion, he's one of those very dodgy human rightsy sort of lawyery people. I've got Atom RPG and not played it yet, but it's like the Stalker sort of Fallout 1, Fallout 2 style game, isn't it? I've got Atom RPG and never played it. But yeah, Starmer to me, and hello, soldier. But yeah, Starmer to me is like one of those dodgy human rightsy lawyery people that his whole grift is basically technicalities of the law, not what's actually right or wrong from a morals perspective. It was like when he was having a go at the Tories for years for all the freebies they got because of corruption. And then as soon as he got in, he started getting freebies. And then he was like, oh, but I declared it, so therefore it's legal. It's like, people don't give a shit if it's the legality of it. It's the fact it's ethically wrong and you're doing it anyway. And then you're doing that, oh, but technically I haven't broken any laws because I know all the laws and I ticked all the right boxes. What, the one where, was that the one where Nigel blows up his thing or whatever it is? Or was that Rishi's thing he blew up? I can't remember, but yeah, I remember those. But yeah, in Minecraft, stuff got blown up, not in reality, just because of the political mood in this country. I ought to probably But yeah, like saying, because the problem is like the inspectors on those sort of trains or the like the conductor type people is they don't want to get stabbed or beaten up, do they, on public transport? And again, I think public transport should be a nice place for people to use. Yeah, not having somebody eating greasy, horrible food everywhere, the feet across a load of seats, listening to music really loud. But yeah, the problem is, again, is any of this stuff going to be enforced? because you can make, there is a Canadian C4 in the back up there, yes. But yeah, the problem is with lots of this, you can have all these laws, but if nobody's there to enforce them, it doesn't matter that you have the laws, does it? My dad was a tool maker. Yeah, he did make a fucking tool, didn't he? Yeah. My father was a tool maker. My sister was a carer. Change was coming. All right, Miss Valdez. Valdez, sorry. But yeah, so yeah, regarding, so yeah, we've got Keir Starlin doing that, and Angela Rayner the other day. Did you see Angela Rayner? She's bought a third house. She bought an £800,000 house, even though she apparently doesn't like people who own second homes. But you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And you know, it's Animal Farm. You get these people that claim to be socialists that come into power, and then it's, oh look, I'm going to buy up all this property and whatever else. It's just you that can't, you know, nobody else can do better themselves. It's just you that has to be, you know, stomped down on. But you know, we're a ruling class. Yeah, it probably depends on the state and everything, doesn't it, Kevin? Because wasn't there a guy in New York a few years ago? It was quite a famous case who basically did a proper fucking Charles Bronson from Death Wish on, you know, some people on the subway who, you know, tried to mug him. And some muggers, you know, would never mug anyone again because they met a gun. And then he got the fucking book thrown at him for just shooting some muggers. And again, like, why is that a problem in America? If it's clear they were the ones that started it, you know, Second Amendment's a thing in America. So why does New York, like the city state or whatever, say, oh, you can't have a handgun on you or whatever? I don't get that. In my opinion, that's unconstitutional. Not that I know much about the US Constitution, but if they have the Second Amendment in it, why is the city or whatever allowed to try and get around what's in the Constitution? But yeah, did you see the picture of Angela Rayner on that dinghy having a vape? Did you see her on the fucking dinghy with some other bloke rowing? Probably her boyfriend or whatever. Yeah, it was. I won't leave a comment on what I thought of that, but there were some pretty apt comments in the comments section about that picture. Can I do a French accent? Oh no, mon ami. Baguette. Yeah, the only really French I can do is you know, like doing an hello, like you stupid woman, sort of, you know, like that sort of thing. So not actual French, like somebody taking the piss out of how the French speak. What was a secret mission then, Rajiv? How am I going to find some more taxpayers' money to spiff up the wall? Yeah, a few films like that have Easter eggs in the credits with fake names and things like that. Do you have an OR1? What's an OR1? The answer is probably not. Unless it's some sort of gas mask or thing that can be abbreviated as an OR1, and I don't know what that is, or my brain's just not going with it. Yeah, exactly, Kevin. That's the problem. All right, Ghost Jesus. But yes, we're on a hate crime stream, as you can see, because we've got the St. George's flag in the background, which, you know, is not, it's not technically banned, but it's causing a lot of people to have a fucking aneurysm on the left in this country. I like both the M16 and AKM. Sadly, I've never shot either. I've got a DIAC AR platform, but in 22 LR, and I've got 2 DIAC AKs. And again, I know technically the AR platform M16 is the better rifle, but I personally like both. I mean, I wouldn't mind either. Like I said, AK-74 I actually really like in terms of, while I know the AR is more accurate, whatever platform, a really high-end AK-74 or whatever is still a really good, cheers, Kevin. But yeah, it's still a really good, you know, platform. Is that the bullpup gun, the VHS2? That's really nice looking, that one. But yeah, check OR1 civil mask. Let me look it up. Because again, there's some masks. Right, I've got one coming up called the CO one. The Czech CO one that looks a bit like a CM3 but earlier. That's coming up. But absolutely no results are coming up for the OR1 when I'm searching on the thing. There's also the Czechoslovakian DM1 coming out, which again looks fairly similar. But no, I don't have either of those, but I do have the CM3, CM4, some Czechoslovakian pre-war before Germany invaded and masks. Well, EM2 would have been really fucking cool if it was allowed to go properly into development. Yeah, especially, Kevin, because we were having this conversation before that there, and I can't show it on stream, I've got an old SIG. I can take the bayonet off just to prove this is attached to something, and oh, it's a bit stuck. Oh, it's because the bayonet lug moves like that, doesn't it, on this bayonet? So I've got a Swiss Sturm, it's deactivated sadly, but Sturmgewehr 57, the SIG 510 right there. And yeah, SIG used to make really good fugly guns, you know, like the SIG 510, the SIG 550, like the P226 and all those pistols. But yeah, it's like SIG US, isn't it? That when they like did the US stuff and set up SIG US, they went to real shit. Oh, I suppose that's good hype. It should at least mean that, you know, I get something from doing this. But yeah, it's got a big winter trigger on it, Kevin, where it's designed for you to use it with mittens, yeah, and it unfolds underneath. In some ways, Rajiv, yes and no. It depends on the company. Like, the thing is, lots of modern guns are a lot better in terms of the way bits are built on them and, you know, attached and general, like, you know, minute over angle, which is basically accuracy of the thing. But a lot of old guns were certainly built to be a lot more retard proof or soldier proof, whatever you want to call it, where, you know, it was really hard to break the gun by just dropping it and doing stuff like that. So lots of the old guns are very good in that regard. You know, they were designed to be used and abused, basically. And again, with guns, although like modern plastics and things are a lot more practical. All right, Mike? Again, I really like the look of old wooden things on guns. So you've got that sort of thing. So Rajiv, I'd say even though some gun companies have made better guns, and in general, a lot of the stuff is better quality on the well-made modern guns, I'd say World War II and a lot of the early Cold War rifles were where a lot of the kind of, you know, overall quality was at, if that makes sense. The FS I've got on my desk, actually. Oh, shit. I've my headphones then hit the thing. No, I've never used a scope with a ballistic calculator. I've got a thermal scope separately. Well, not actually a rifle scope. It's like a thermal spotting scope. I've got a thermal spotting scope, which is actually literally on my desk right here. So I got this, which I still need to do a proper video on. So I'll try and remember to do that maybe tomorrow. The TD420, because you link it to your phone and then it saves video and photos to your phone, I think using your wireless network. It's a bit weird how it works. It doesn't take an internal card. And again, this does have mounting brackets to be mounted onto stuff. K-Bar is a better overall knife, Kevin, for like bushcrafty stuff. But yeah, but for actually, if you had to use a knife in combat for the purposes of, you know, quickly killing or incapacitating or saving your life, an FS would be better, because it is purely just designed to stab into people really easily. Yeah, I've got quite a few night vision things. I don't know sodium chloride. That's the sort of thing, hype, in a few months' time, if I've got spare money, I'd probably want to buy. At the moment, I really need to stop myself from spending money I can't really afford to at the moment. Because at the moment, I'm trying to ban myself from going on eBay, because I've had the thing recently, you know, where I was doing the thing, right, I'll save some money now, and then saw a load of things that I knew if I didn't buy, I wouldn't get a second chance, and I'd regret it. So I ended up spending money I didn't want to spend. Yeah, I mean, you could in theory make a modern knife that's better than this, using the same kind of design principles. No, don't have a firearms certificate, but I've got some obsolete caliber guns, which is section 58 or whatever. Don't want, with how the UK is at the moment, I do not want a firearms certificate with all the bollocks around it, especially now that people would lose their guns if they say the wrong thing online that's been happening to people and stuff like that. Yeah, the Glock field knife's all right. There are some other various like gun companies that do field knives that are fairly good. But yeah, with something like an FS knife, like I said before, it's one of those things you definitely, yeah, the V42 stiletto dagger, I know the one you made. Yeah, they based it on the FS, didn't they? But yeah, with something like this, like I keep saying, where I would really like this is somewhere on me in the case of, you know, any sort of post-apocalyptic scenario. So if somebody or a monster or whatever grappled you, you could reach for it in like one of the places you had it and pull it out and stab with it. If, you know, somebody was choking you or like, you know, on top of you or whatever else. Because again, this is like one of the things I always find really annoying as like a Hollywood trope in films and games and that, is somebody only has like one knife or whatever that always gets knocked away from them. Where you think if you were really in a scenario where, you know, you knew you were going to have to use a knife whatever for your own survival, you'd probably have one knife strapped to your leg, one somewhere on your chest rig or whatever, you know, and that sort of stuff. But like in all ways, I know it's to add tension in that. Let me have a look at the Set Me Field machete bayonet, and then I want one. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. So it's actually, yeah, it's still a bayonet size knife, but it's got like a machete sort of edge and weight to it. That is actually pretty cool. Because I don't know, I was imagining like a huge smack chip type thing when you said about that. But that is actually quite cool, yeah. Again, a Set Meow was one of the Diak rifles. I really wanted to get a Set Meow when they were a decent price, but sadly I've never seen one again. Medieval Falchion is just a sword machete, really. The PH gas hood I don't even have in this room, so I can't get out that dude. And my one isn't a World War I one, like I've said, it's just a modern replica. Like a cheap replica. But saying that, though, those Soviet hoods there, the Fallout hoods, are kind of a bit like the PH gas hood. They're a similar thing, although they weren't designed to be soaked in a chemical. But they're just kind of, you know, like breathable hoods. I'm assuming, I don't know, sodium chloride, again, they might have made some, but with all those things, I think they were just designed to be worn with the NBC gear. So the NBC hood on the NBC, you know, smock would have been your hood for the mask. Yeah, all right, Miss Valadez. It was my cousin's wedding on Sunday this week, so I was there at the weekend. That was nice. Didn't actually drink that much and whatever, you know, I thought I was going to get absolutely shit-faced at that, and I didn't. I was actually quite sensible. But sadly, I'm back to work Saturday. You know, my time off work has run out again, so I'm back to work. But yeah, in terms of, but the wedding was nice, but it was one of those things where, because it was mostly the family of the bloke, the woman, you know, my cousin married, because it was nearly all her family there. There's a lot of those I didn't know. So it was one of those, it was nice to go, but the menu was a bit weird they had for the food. Wasn't nasty food or anything, but, you know, it wasn't, even though obviously it must have cost them a lot of things for the venue and that, I thought the food, you know, wasn't my cup of tea, really, the food. It was, you know, kind of like olivey type stuff with, you know, specialist breads and then, you know, like various cheeses and that sort of thing. Not really my sort of thing. And like I said, it was a case of didn't know a load of the people there. So most of the people we ended up chatting with were like my aunt and uncle, you know, my cousin's parents, and my aunt's, you know, like sister. So my uncle's like sister-in-law sort of thing, you know, because they were like the only people we really knew there properly. And, you know, obviously we spoke to my cousin and his wife, and then obviously their kids, because they've got kids, and it was their kids that got them to get married. That was funny, because apparently my aunt and uncle and Lindsay's parents didn't think they were ever going to bother getting married because, they were quite a modern couple and that sort of, a lot of people don't bother. But then it was because their kids kept pestering them to, why don't you have the same last name? So I saw my cousin's kids as well, which is nice. So they're like my uncle's grandkids and they're my granddad's great-grandchildren. So that was nice seeing them, because one of them I can't remember if I've even seen since he was born, even though he's like, he can talk now and everything. And the other one I haven't seen since he was like a little toddler, and now he's almost going into secondary school, I think now. Somebody is complaining that I am yapping away on the stream, despite the fact it's a fucking stream. Goodbye. Yeah, I'd get one, say, like I said, it's always useful just having a Camelback. Like I said, the CBRN Camelbacks are technically just a bit better in terms of they're more chemical resistant and everything else. Like I said, I'd imagine you could probably use the regular Camelbacks just with the mask adapters and they probably work fine. But yeah, the CBRN ones I think are made from specific rubbers that they're, more chemical resistant, a bit like what you use on masks. They probably won't say, unless they're ones that have already been issued, they won't come with the Avon ones for the masks. You have to buy that separately, because they normally come with the attachment point for the mask thing, because obviously, bear in mind, if you bought one of those, they don't issue like 7 different types of adapters with them. So like they do different ones. They do like ones for the Avon style masks. They do ones, I think they call it the M series for the US military masks, like, prior to the M50, like the M40 and the M17, and that would also work on like the Canadian C4. And there were some other ones I can't remember now, but for different nations' drinking tube connectors. So yeah, if you buy one of the police ones, it comes, so you could literally buy one of the connectors and plug it right in and you'd have no issue whatsoever. But yeah, it didn't come with the actual mask connector because it was unissued. Because obviously what the police do is they buy in specific adapters for the masks they're issuing, plus those, Favorite World War II tank? I'd say the best tank of the war was probably the Sherman, just because. So I'll try and think of my favorite in a minute. But the Sherman was probably the best in terms of cost per tank and actually how good the tank was. Because obviously World War II proved that the medium tanks were the way to go. Like the T-34 and the Sherman ended up being the most sort of, efficient sort of tanks. But I'm trying to think what my favorite is. Now, the Tiger II is fucking cool. And again, loads of German tanks are cool, but they're maintenance nightmares. And again, lots of the British tanks are kind of interesting, but they weren't that good. There are a couple of good British tanks from World War II. The Centurion at the end of World War II, and again, the Centurion would have been the best tank of World War II, but it came in right at the end of World War II, so it isn't really counted. It was the best tank of the Korean War, and the Centurion was kind of like the first modern MBT. And again, you've got cool things like the Comet and things like that Britain had. Early Cold War, Centurion, and then Chieftain. I was watching, Crusader was good. Crusader and the Comet are pretty similar. Yeah, Panther was nice. Yeah, the Stug was the best German armoured vehicle, Saint, in terms of efficiency, yeah. But that was, I think, because the Germans built a lot of them. Stugs were like the funny thing where the Sturmgeschütz, the Stug. Although the Stug wasn't a proper tank, because it was good enough and they built shitloads of them, the Stug did really well. It's a bit like the Spitfire was a better plane than the Hurricane, but the Hurricane shot down more German planes during the Battle of Britain because there were more of them to field. It's just the Stug was just an assault gun. It was like an all-round, artillery / tank destroyer, whatever thing. And the front armor was good enough that as long as it was facing the right direction, it was pretty good. I've been able to grow facial hair for the last 3 or so years, Pringle. Again, I can't grow a beard very well. I can grow a bit of a goatee, but it's always really patchy. I can get bits of sideburns there, but it's when I went, Saint, to the Munster Tank Museum in Germany, they had the fucking Sturmtiger there. Now that thing is insane, the Sturmtiger. How fucking big the barrel is on the Sturmtiger. No, not a fan of mustard, Morgan. I like American mustard, even I wouldn't say that's real mustard. But no, mustard is just one of those things I just don't get on with. I don't know anything about the specific armoured vehicles, Kevin. I know about, was it Operation Dingo, where they wore blackface. They drove into like a parade ground of like Mugabe's troops or whatever and said like, you know, come out for inspection, and they machine gunned all of them on the parade ground, and then they couldn't do anything. So I know they did some quite cool operations like that, but I don't know about specifically adapted vehicles. Yeah, I've seen a tortoise, and there's also the American very similar one, isn't there? The super heavy American tank that got lost in the field for years. Again, like I said, the weird thing with Germany is Germany's logistics were awful in World War II, but they did have some quite cool equipment. Again, I like the Stug. And again, if Germany was going to min-max the entire war, like, you know, you're doing it some weird Hearts of Iron build, I'd have just put flak 88s on everything. You know, like technicals of 88s on and everything else, because 88s were great. All of the European museums, there was one that would probably been really good. I didn't actually go in, but that was, as in I went around the outside, but because we didn't have enough time and you had to pay for entry, we just looked around all the armoured vehicles on the outside. But that was the military museum in Warsaw. That's apparently really good, but I'm just throwing that in as like an extra. Bovington is really good in the UK if you like tanks, tanks and armoured vehicles, because they've got shitloads. There's one called the Muckelberg collection, if that's still around. Might be the T-28 Saint, I can't remember. I doubt they would have won if Mussolini didn't invade Crete. I think Mussolini, if he was smart, wouldn't have joined the war. Yeah, that's the funny thing. I mean, I'm jealous you saw the mouse, but yeah, a lot of German build quality on stuff is really bad late war. I mean, Britain's famous for bad build quality, but our build quality was kind of to a working standard. Yeah, didn't invent the Toyota Hilux tree. But yeah, so Muckelberg collection is good if you just like want a smaller Bovington that's also got some stuff in that isn't necessarily armoured vehicles, because Muckelberg, if I remember right, had a few like anti-aircraft gun emplacements and things like that in there, which was pretty cool. And like I said, when I was in Germany, Munster was really good. That was just loads and loads of German tanks in Munster. There was a few foreign tanks. You know, there were a few Soviet tanks in there from former East Germany, East German armoured vehicles, and they had a couple of, you know, random other World War II stuff that I think West Germany bought cheap after World War II. So there was some like British and American World War II surplus West Germany had as well, plus the actual West German stuff in there. But yeah, speaking of the RAF museums, Duxford is good. I think Duxford is the one I haven't been to. The really good one is Hendon for the RAF museum. That's the one in London. And Hendon has absolutely loads and loads of planes in there. And I went to the RAF museum. Is it the one near Birmingham that's got the MiGs in it and the Sabre? And it also, again, has a Vulcan in it. It's got a BMP-1 in that one as well. It's the one where they were restoring bits of the Dornier after it was fished out of the sea. That's cool. So, but yeah, again, it depends if the meta of warfare changes again. I mean, with FPV drones, especially the fiber optic ones that can't actually be jammed, I do think tanks are going to be used very differently than how they were in the past. But I still think, again, with warfare, there could be another big shift, you know, where people write off the tank and then they come in again as a thing that works. Fairford, let me see which one that is, Saint. That's probably the one I haven't been to. Is Fairford the one that has all the American stuff in the museum? Or is that Duxford? What am I? If you're on about the base, and I've not been to Fairford. Is that if that's still in operation? Then no, I haven't been to Fairford. Which is the RAF museum? Let's see, is it Duxford that has the American stuff in? So if Duxford's in Cambridge, that's probably the one I haven't been to, even though that's technically the closest one to me. Yeah, Duxford, the ones I've not been to, because it has the Blackbird in the SR-71, so I've not been to that one. It has an A-10 in there as well, doesn't it? I want to go to that one. It's just weirdly the one I never got around to going to. But like I said, the one near Birmingham that has the BMP in, and just randomly has a BMP underneath one of the planes, and has like the F-86 Sabre in and the MiG-15, and that is good. No, I haven't been to the Manchester one. I've been to the London Imperial War Museum. I haven't knowingly been to the Australian War Memorial. I've definitely been to the Polish Airmen's War Memorial thing, because my granddad wanted to see it when we were on holiday one year, and it was fairly close to where we went. So there's a big like monument to the dead Polish pilots from the Battle of Britain and other RAF battles. Yeah, I definitely want to go to Leeds Armoury. One of my mates lives in Leeds, and we keep going on about me visiting him. But again, it's one of those really fucking irritating things to plan, because, you know, both having time off from work so we'd be free to do stuff and that. So it's one of those things where he's been there for years now, and I still haven't gone up to visit him. I've seen him when he's been in Oxford and that sometimes, but it's one of those ones that whenever we try and plan to do anything, and me go up there, it's always like really hard to find a time where I can get time off work and he can get time off work, so we've never bothered, kind of thing. But yeah, I do watch the Jonathan Ferguson stuff from Leeds Armoury. I kind of doubt that, Saint, seeing as that Jonathan Ferguson, who does a lot of the YouTube videos, does all like kind of shooting type videos and gun disassembly type stuff. I mean, I'd rather not visit Kabul, but yeah, there are a few in some of the places in both Africa and the Middle East, aren't there? Some old weird World War II relics lying around. Yeah, have a good morning. Have a good tomorrow then. I don't know, Sunny Horror. Technically today, but have a good today, tomorrow then. I won't be on too much longer. Oh, yes, it's gone 6:05 now. I'll be on a little bit longer, but oh, Jewish boy shot with air rifle and swastika painted on home in anti-Semitic attack in seaside town. Now, which seaside town is this? And is it one, coincidentally? I'm going to put my thinking hat on here, right? Is this one of the places that a load of migrants have been sent to? Oh, Bournemouth. What a fucking surprise. What a surprise. Now, I bet you the government would say it's the far-right people who did that. But my rational brain says if they've shoved loads of people from Afghanistan and Syria and all those places into hotels in Bournemouth, which they've done, who have gone around committing sex crimes against teenage girls and robbing people and everything else, what is also the chances that they're committing crimes against Jewish people because of the fact they're Jewish? Just a thinking of that, you know, just to have a little ponder. It's just me having putting my thinking hat on there now. Oh, so what a surprise. The person that ended up going on about making a swastika cake is now blaming Jews randomly for stuff. Goodbye. Like I said, I'm barely Christian. But again, it's like you, even if you dislike Israel, you don't have to hate Jews. But sadly, you know. Yeah, as Kevin says though, it was you're right, you probably would be yeah, you probably would be safer in some of the foreign countries. Maybe because their worst criminals have already left to come here. And now, you know, it's only the nice people left in those countries. I don't know. But again, America did a lot of good during the bombing campaign again. It's like the thing is, with America in World War II, obviously, people over here, and especially because of obviously my granddad's generation, were really grateful the Americans were on our side in World War II because of, you know, just fighting Nazi Germany alone was not fun. But yeah, there definitely does seem to be some, shall we say, revisioning of how much America did in the war. Now, in the Pacific, America did do loads and loads, and obviously, in Britain wouldn't have got to Berlin without the Americans. But yeah, the reason that the RAF only ended up doing night bombing was, yes, just to avoid. Oh, is Starmer in the room with me? I haven't put his face on that mannequin. But yeah, regarding yeah, the reason the RAF went to night bombing was just simply because it was, yeah, you'd lose less planes and crews. So the idea was just simply because we couldn't afford to just keep losing men and equipment. You know, if you were going to bomb, you were just going to night bomb. Because I think it was during the firebombing of Dresden, only 1 or 2 planes were lost, and that was due to them flying out of formation and getting blown up by their own incendiaries, essentially, you know, like another bomb hitting it from a different altitude. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, Kevin, because like I said, a lot of my friends that have been to, you know, some really kind of Islamic countries, they're saying it's kind of funny that you can go over there and the Muslims who actually live in those countries are way more chill than the ones that decide to come over here. Again, I'll be careful what I say because I'm sure I'm on the hate crime list now. But, you know, the Muslims over there are really nice and quite friendly people while you're over there. But the ones that, you know, decide to leave the country and come here from some of those same said countries are the ones that decide they want to start shit non-stop. So, you know, that is kind of sometimes a thing in lots of places that, you know, I guess it's because the people who leave the countries are the ones that think, oh, I can make easy money elsewhere or whatever. But, you know. I've heard Jordan's actually quite a nice country as well, like compared to like Saudi and all the others. Yeah, again, just saturation bomb everything. And again, I think with World War II strategic bombing, it was one of those things like for every Dresden and Tokyo you had where a city was essentially wiped out, they didn't actually stop much being produced for very long, did they? Like, again, yeah, again, like you said, Ryler audio, it could be very region specific, but, and just the people you end up meeting, I suppose. But yeah, but because yeah, if I remember right, most of the factories that were bombed in World War II, they'd sort of stop for a bit and production would restart pretty quickly. Obviously, there are some bombing bits in World War II that did work really well. Yeah, yeah, they essentially got kicked out from places, Ghost Jesus, and then they came to find somewhere else to bother. And I said, definitely with the UK at the moment, the problem is because our government's been so fucking soft on illegal immigrants and everything, is we do literally have the problem where it's seen as literally a fucking magnet to anyone who wants to just come and get some free money, free accommodation, and whatever else. Because even if your claim is completely bogus and you get kicked out, you know, it's probably going to take them years to do that, and you can freeload off a system in the meantime. And again, then that's also really bad for people that are legitimate refugees because they're getting now lumped in with all the twats that, you know, are like, gimme, gimme, coming over. Yeah, if I remember right, on Operation Black Buck, I think only one of the bombs from the Vulcan hit the airfield in the Falklands, and that was a success because it created the airfield. And I think on every follow-up bombing run, they never hit it. So again, and that was even with a Cold War plane that probably had better, you know, release systems just for dumb bombs. But yeah, so that's just one of those sort of funny things with that even in, yeah, like with better equipment on a 60s sort of era plane in the 1980s, bombing a runway, you know, even when that was carried out several times, out of all the bombs dropped, I think only 1 or 2 ever hit the target. So again, precision guided munitions are just such a different sort of thing compared to the old saturation bombing of get loads of planes and just drop them in the right sort of area. Again, it's why people like Hans-Ulrich Rudel, the Stuka ace, were so much better at blowing stuff up than a lot of the other people, because of how, you know, a dive bomber operated, because you essentially just guide it on, manually release the bomb and pull out. Yeah, I think actually the Vulcan initially wasn't a missile carrier. It definitely evolved into a missile carrier. But yeah, I know it certainly wasn't intended for just standard bombing. Yeah, like I said, I think it was originally a gravity bomb, you know, nuclear gravity bomber. But again, you don't have to be that accurate with that. And then, yeah, it did turn into a missile carrier, because obviously it made a lot more sense to just release a missile from high altitude and, you know, go back to base than risk flying over enemy air defenses to drop your bomb. It made a lot more sense. But again, I guess the technology wasn't first there when Vulcan came out. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the Vulcan was designed initially for gravity bombing, but like I said, only literally dropping a nuke on roughly the right area, which wasn't exactly a hard thing for any bomber to do. I think, if I remember right, Reeler Audio, it's because they came in the generation before the FM12, but after the S10. So they're kind of weird fucking amalgamation masks. Yeah, and I suppose that's why they fire multiple PGMs as well, isn't it, Ghost Jesus? It's one of those things of, you don't just risk it with one missile. You know, you probably fire shitloads of missiles and that and just hope enough of them hit the target. But I do remember there was some quite funny pictures from at the start of the Ukraine war where Russia had fired loads of PGMs at some of Ukraine's infrastructure, and there were like holes around everything and not the actual, you know, target. But yeah, and again, this is the whole thing now, isn't it? With like the FPV drones and that, it's just how much stupidly better they are at aiming for a target, because it's a person guiding it in, and soon to probably be an AI that just takes a picture and goes, oh, that's what I'm aiming for, I'm just going to fly into it. I've definitely been down the Khyber Pass gunsmith rabbit hole, yeah. But yes, I've seen some really fucking interesting, weird Khyber Pass guns online, Kevin. Yep, Brandon is right. Sir Keir Starlin is, oh, I am going to spend your taxpayers' money to try and stop you moving them out of that hotel. Yeah, see you, hype. Have a good evening. Yeah, I've seen multiple things going on with American Isvalidez, and the problem is, obviously, every time I do one of these, some people say it's bad, some people say it's good. But Trump certainly doesn't look healthy. And like I said, Trump has really pissed me off with the whole Ukraine thing, because he kept doing that, oh, Ukraine wouldn't have started the war if I was president, it was because of weak Biden. And you could initially say that, but now he's tacoing out on everything to do with punishing Putin. It's like, okay, so you are just going to do fuck all, aren't you? So, yeah. And the idea that Trump might die and then you might get J.D. Vance, I think, is even worse. Is the PRVU the rocket refilling mask? If so, I don't have one. But if I remember right, it's basically, isn't it the equivalent of a PMG2 or whatever, but sealed up more to mean it's harder for like acid gases or whatever to eat into the mask? But yeah, I know it's because rocket chemicals are like really, really horrific acids, aren't they? Like when they used to fill up the V2 rockets, Germany, there was like the N stop and the T stop. It was you know, one where they had to be really, really fucking careful with that shit. And that's probably why that mask is built to a higher standard than most of the Soviet masks, because you didn't want any like metal kind of exposed that could be eaten away at, or, you know, calcify, or whatever the other word is for it, you know. But yeah, I do know with, I can't remember if it is N-Stoff or T-Stoff, one of the two, was the one that basically, even in fucking glass vials, that stuff could, like, explode. And I think even in dark rooms in glass vials, it could explode. So it was one of those things that was, like, kind of like comical nitroglycerin, that, you know, even if you followed all the safety advice, you might still get blown to smithereens by it. But yeah, I think, like I said, I think the good thing in this country now is it's getting to the point where people are just saying, no, we're fucking fed up with it. You know, where they're fed up with the government lying, saying we're going to fix something and then not doing anything. Yeah, and like I said, if it was for refueling Rocket Stalker, that's why it'll have to have less of the metal exposed or whatever, because and all those sort of bits, because yeah, of how harsh the chemicals are. Even if you're working one safer than the old World War II German era V2 refilling stuff. Yeah, it's the super acidic stuff, isn't it, and all that, and you have to not let it come into contact with certain other materials because they can cause it to combust out of nowhere. Speaking of how acidic rocket fuel is, in whichever one of the German 2 planes was the rocket plane, supposedly on one of the flights from that, okay, if you can get one for a good price, get one, Mr. Blitz, but I've never seen them cheap. Supposedly, one of the rocket planes crashed upside down, and by the time the ground crew opened up the cockpit, all they found was like a bit of melted clothing and like a puddle of pink goo where the fuel compartment had leaked into the cockpit, where the pilot had literally been reduced to sludge, supposedly. Whichever, was it the 262 or was that a different one? I can't remember, it was the Comet or one of the others, the rocket plane. But it was like that rocket interceptor Germany built, not even a jet plane, the rocket interceptor that was designed to go up, hit a couple of bombers and like kind of ski back down. But yeah, supposedly, yeah, as well as all the ones that fucking blew up when they were filling them up like the V2 rockets, they did have a pilot that was unlucky enough to have a leak inside, and then the pilot leaked everywhere essentially. So yeah, not much fun for that guy. But yeah, so like I said, the UK is Devonshire Military says 162. Oh, the 162 that's in the plane, yeah, ME 162 or whatever. Was that the Swallow? Swallow or the Comet? 163. ME 163, so Messerschmitt 163. I've heard different stories talking of an oil ant, and again, a lot of this stuff is going to be fabricated in history, but it's still a cool story. Kevin, have you seen the crazy fucking thing from last year? And this was last year, but I wouldn't be surprised if more of this happens, where with all the stuff going on in Ireland as well, where in both Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, you know, both have the exact same situation with, you know, like I was saying, fake, illegal, you know, illegal immigrants, fake asylum seeker ones coming in and being given everything for free. So not actual people that have come from war-torn countries, but, you know, the ones that say, oh, I've come over here and you owe me everything, those ones, and then go out committing horrible crimes. There were fucking guys marching side by side with the Irish flag and the fucking Ulster flag. And you think, in what fucking world has things got so weirdly messed up in the West that, you know, like in Northern Ireland or wherever, you had the two sides flying their flags side by side. You know, something's gone very wrong at that point. But again, I think going back to what we said about Afghanistan, I'll read some of the other comments in a minute before I go off. It is kind of that thing of it's like, it's, you know, my brother with my brother against my cousin or whatever it is. You know, me and my cousin against my neighbor or whatever, me and my neighbor against, you know, it's that sort of thing. It's because the threat's kind of a big external threat that a lot of the people that would fight with each other are going, yeah, it's a bit bigger than all of us, isn't it? Yeah, well done, Kia, and everyone else. You've managed to unite the country. You've united everyone in absolute hatred of you and your policies. Well fucking done. You know, you didn't do it from being a good leader. You've done it because you're so shit, everybody hates you. Left and right, everybody hates you. That isn't, you know, just a shit lib in the middle. Just says, suck it up and deal with it. I know what you mean, Miss Valdez. Glad you enjoy it when I'm on. So I'm normally on around this time of day, around 5 p.m., 6 p.m. on days I can do it. And also with Trump, what is the legality for Americans? Because I keep hearing different things depending on the you know, what if they're left or right Republicans or MAGA peeps or whatever, or you know, MAGA tards, whatever you want to call them. You know, the very, very MAGA people, not the ones that are even the sensible Republicans. What is the logic in the thing of him sending the National Guard being armed into all these cities? Because he's doing it with more and more cities now, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of funny, isn't it, Ghost Jesus? Yeah, because like I said, it's like I said, the British government certainly did a lot of horrible things to the Irish over the years, various, English kings and then later British governments. And I'm not proud of that. That's not one of the things where you think, ha ha ha, look at all the shit the Empire did, and then say, oh, wasn't it great we did all these horrible things to the Irish? That certainly wasn't any of the things that I support. But yeah, it's if you think that the Brits were better than what the current lot are, yeah, and we think we hate our current lot. What people are suing him, left, right? Yeah, the people that like Starmer, Brandon, are those, like I said, the parasitic, and again, I'm going to use my own terms here, because again, I know I'm going to upset certain people with this, parasitic human rights lawyers, the type of ones that know, like the ambulance chasing human rights lawyers, that are the ones that know they can be defending somebody that's a child molester, a criminal. They completely know their client is in the wrong, but they know they'll make a shitload of money by helping their client, put endless legal battles against the state. That's the sort of people, to me, that Starmer is mates with, and the people who like him. And that's why he sold off the British Chagos Islands, but he didn't sell them off. We actually had to buy off our own islands, where he sold them to Mauritius rather than the actual Chagosian people, where if you were going to get rid of them, you should give it to the people who actually are the natives of the place, not a nearby country that says we own them. But anyway, so he sold them to Mauritius, but in the sense he sold them was, we'll give them to Mauritius, and it will cost billions and billions of pounds of British money for us to give them away. So, yeah. So, yeah, you've got a shit situation in the US by the sound of it, Ms. Valadez, and we've got a shit situation in the UK. And our one, like I said, has been because every government in like 20 odd years has been told you need to sort out immigration problems, only let people come here that genuinely want to work, and will contribute. And the government every time is like, yeah, we'll sort it out. And then it's like, oh no, we imported even more migrants that are not skilled. You're going to have to pay welfare for them, are going to commit crimes. And you're the racist for noticing it. But we are dealing with it. Don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe your lying ears. It's basically gaslighting. That's the main problem we've had from the British state for years. It's basically just non-stop gaslighting, where they don't do what they're, anything they run in their election manifestos, they never do any of it, and then they gaslight the public constantly, telling us how they're doing a really good job, and that it's us being idiots for not noticing or wanting a different pace of change. So yeah. So anyway, I will be off now. I've been on an hour and a half or so. I am gonna play some more video games probably in a minute. I want to play a bit more like Gears of War thing, or I will see a couple of my mates are online. But I think most of those want to play Helldivers at the moment, because in Helldivers 2 they've added the Halo stuff to it, the Halo ODST equipment. So they're probably trying to just grind medals for that, I imagine. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, Mr. Blitz, because bear in mind, PRVUs are pretty rare from what I understand, and most of the legit sellers that have them sell them for stupid amounts of money. So yeah, if you see one at a good price, I'd be very cautious. That's not to say sometimes you don't find really good deals, but a lot of the time online, if somebody is selling something that's meant to be rare, and then they're selling it for a low price, you might have to question, the thing, is this too good to be true? Because it normally is. So yeah, have a good day, everybody. I should hopefully be on for a stream tomorrow. I've got a free house for summer tomorrow, so I'm going to try and get a couple of videos filmed and things I want to get filmed then. So when you've got nobody else around, it's really easy to just say I'm going to film something in a certain room, and be able to do it. So right, anyway, have a good day, everybody. And oh yeah, I'm streaming via my phone, aren't I, via my PC, so I need to stop the stream on this. All right, have a good day, everybody. See you all. I will be on hopefully tomorrow.